1974. Preview show.
Oh, we're live apparently. Excellent start to proceedings as normal. Absolutely no notification to tell us that we're live. Dave, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I just realised as well I've got no clue if this show's sponsored by anyone today, so I've not said anything. Oh, it's sponsored by Luke, apparently, I'm being told. So this show today, match preview show, Tottenham Hotspur against Aston Villa on Sunday. What an absolute shambles this podcast is. This show is in association with Luke Roper. If you want to get 20% off everything Luke Roper have to offer, then use the code TVV20. I apologise for the shambolic start to this show. Let's blame Adam Bates, as we always do. I see you all in the chat as well. We are late. We are normally late. That's just what we do here. It wasn't actually me. I was ready and raring to go, wasn't I, David?
It was all me.
It was David
It was all
Reed
me.
who
I
set
can
us
only
back.
apologise.
Yeah,
I went to do a click and collect this morning, and I thought it'd be a 5-minute job, and they kept me waiting 15 minutes. So that's been the start to my day, and that meant I was running back through the streets of London in order to get back for this.
If I had to guess how you did your shopping, I would have gone click and collect.
Well, it was a birthday present I was picking up. You see, it wasn't anything food related. It was just a birthday present from the shop.
Okay, I see. And I'm being blinded by the sun, even though the blinds are shut. I'd have no idea why it's still coming through. But Dave, recently we've been blinded by Villa's excellent football at Villa Park. Not so much away from home, but this feels like, it feels like a big game because it's against a traditional Big Six side. It's a side that are up around us in the upper echelons of the Premier League as well in Tottenham. But I suppose the best thing for us at the moment is it feels like a good time to play Tottenham because they have been decimated by injuries and suspensions recently.
Yeah, it does. I mean, just before we start, right? It's been the international break, which has obviously been rubbish for everybody.
Tedious again.
Awful. But I have listened and watched some incredible Villa-related content over the last 2 weeks. It's been brilliant. I think it started with the 1874 with you and Greg, where you talked about Ezri Konsa and his call up to the England squad. I listened to Claret and Blue with Dan and John McKenzie. I'm a big fan of John's work. I think he's excellent, and I watch a lot of Tifo videos. I love what they do. And then Sam, who you had on, Sam Ty, he did a podcast with John as well on Tifo, more of a general overview of how things have gone over on Unai Emery since he came in. And then listen to your podcast as well with Sam, the drop in the other day. So I would urge everybody to go back and watch and listen to all that stuff. If you haven't got around to it today, if you've got some spare couple of hours today, then go back and listen, because there's been hours and hours of kind of great Villa kind of content, but also more mainstream media content. And also Jacob as well in The Athletic wrote a great piece about Villa's High Line that I read yesterday.
I've not read that yet. I really want to read it. Sometimes you need really time to sit down and read something. I need a proper time to sit down on a comfy chair and read that.
Yeah, so he talked a lot about the High Line, the different sort of triggers that Villa use. Some going back to kind of what Unai Emery has done in previous jobs, and if you do a deep dive on YouTube, you can find some of Unai Emery's past kind of team talks where he's talking them through how to play the High Line. So very interesting article from Jacob. So there's been loads of stuff about. So yeah, I would urge people to have a watch and listen to all of that. But yeah, it's coming up to Tottenham. It's great to be back. Great to be back playing Premier League football, and the next few weeks is going to be so exciting. Good time to play Tottenham. They've obviously got their issues with selection and injuries, suspensions, and I think it's going to be quite an exciting game, I would have thought.
Yeah, it's mainly in the defence where they've got problems. Although to be fair to them, they've got problems throughout. Van der Ven and Romero first probably quarter of the season, probably maybe the best centre back partnership in the Premier League for a time when Tottenham were top of the league. Both of them won't be playing for different reasons. I think Udogie is back, isn't he, from suspension? He only had a 1-game ban because he got 2 yellows against Chelsea. I think Porro's having a very good season at right back. Obviously, Maddison has been their key man going forward. He's out until the new year. So even just from that perspective on its own, it's a good time to be playing Tottenham. Basuma is suspended as well. He got sending off, didn't he, a few weeks ago when he was just about to hit 5 yellows, but then he got a straight red, I think. So he got a ban for that. And then he got his 5th yellow against Chelsea. That game feels like it was ages ago now, by the way, that mad Spurs-Chelsea game. So Bissouma's out as well. Am I missing anyone? Is this Richarlison, I think, has broke his pubic bone, is it? So I think Richarlison is out as well. Spurs fans probably won't lose too much sleep over that one. But still, I think we know from Postecoglou, from watching them play with 9 men, that even with different personnel, maybe personnel that don't suit the way of playing as well as the players that are missing, they'll still play exactly the same way. They'll still play the Postecoglou way. They'll still play with a very high line. They'll still have those inverted fullbacks. So it'll still be a tough game, but we can't deny with all those factors coming in that it is a decent time to play them.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think the question marks defensively, I think obviously is over who starts at centre back now. Will it be Eric Dyer and Ben Davies, or will he decide to go for Emerson Royale, who there's almost his kind of story arc has been quite an interesting one, because a curious one, because he came in and started as a kind of right back, and then people decided or saw that he couldn't really cross the ball and thought, what's he doing there? And then he came a bit of a figure of fun, really, among Tottenham supporters, I think. And then now he's kind of brought himself back, and he's can play left back, can play right back, can come on and play centre back. And he's actually, particularly at this time anyway, when they've got so many players out, he's going to become quite an important player. So I wonder whether he might decide to choose Emerson Royal at right centre back over Eric Dyer, just because Eric Dyer, there's quality there. There's always been quality there with Eric Dyer, but I just wonder, concentration-wise, whether he is able to carry out the tasks that Ange Postecoglou wants him. And I think Emerson Royal probably has an extra yard of pace as well in terms of running back towards his own goal. And if Tottenham, and when Tottenham, I should say, do employ that high line, I think, running back towards your own goal, as we've discussed previously, is absolutely vital. So having that extra yard of pace with Emerson Royal might be the way to go. So I think the two centre-backs is going to be a question mark. And then, as you say, James Maddison is so key for that team. He is the one that makes them tick. He doesn't kind of sit in that number 10 position. He will roam all over. And then the other players within that Tottenham setup rotate almost around him. Maddison can often drift into the left-back position, and Udogie will go into central midfield, as you say, with inverted fullbacks. He'll move around into central midfield, and Pape Sarr would move further forward into a kind of number 10 or second striker role. So everything kind of almost revolved around him. So he's such a massive miss for Tottenham during his injury layoff. So I mean, it'd be interesting to see who they end up selecting. I mean, Brennan Johnson is obviously scored against Wolves, was it?
Yeah, I need to correct myself on Bissouma, actually. It was the yellow card. The yellow card was against Wolves, not against Chelsea. Yeah,
so he obviously scored. And it'd be interesting to see how they kind of set up off the ball. They kind of do a similar thing to Villa a little bit, where it would essentially be Maddison and Son as being the kind of two that press from the front. But instead of usually when football teams set up in a kind of 4-4-2 press, when the front two go and press, or when one of the front two goes and press, the other one kind of sits and screens the central midfielder, so the ball can't go through there. But what Tottenham do slightly differently is both forward players go and press the centre backs, and then the wingers sit and tuck inside. So it'd be interesting to see how they how they evolve over the next few weeks to try and negate all the players that they're missing. Be an interesting tactical setup, but Unai Emery's proved that he can play against high lines. He can play against high pressing teams. You look at Newcastle United and how well Villa have done at home. Villa will kind of try and set up slightly differently, probably, and rather than play out too much, we might see those clip passes out to fullbacks and into the number 10s and into Ollie Watkins, maybe, who can hold up the ball. So there's lots of different ways that Villa can hurt Tottenham.
Yeah, there was talk a few weeks ago that maybe, I think his name's Ashley Phillips, a young lad that they've picked up from Blackburn, that he might come in and play centre back because he's probably better suited to what Postecoglou wants. But he went with Dyer and Davies with Emerson Royal at left back against Wolves. It will be interesting to see if he does do the same thing this week. And then in midfield, I guess with another couple of weeks of training, maybe Benton Kerr might. I don't know whether he went away on international duty or not. If he didn't, he's got another couple of weeks of training behind his belt. He's a very, very good footballer, Benton Kerr, who they've been without for a long time. I think maybe he'll firm up the midfield with Benton Kerr and Højbjerg, and Papi Sarr maybe comes in and plays a little bit further forward, but then they drop into a midfield three to maybe try and firm it up because they're playing against a good team themselves in Villa. You mentioned Brennan Johnson, a player I really, really like. I've watched a lot of Nottingham Forest over the last year or so, and he was electric for them. And he was injured, wasn't he? So he hasn't played as much for Spurs as you would have maybe liked him to. But he's in the goals now, scored against Wolves, playing from that left hand side, which is a different position to which he played for Forest. He kind of played more from the right or central for Forest. If Postecoglou's look back at games Villa have struggled in, it has been when there's been a bit of pace on that left hand side. You think back to the Forest game a few weeks ago, Elanga did cause Matty Cash problems. We had Diaz against Liverpool. He caused Matty Cash problems, and Anthony Gordon on the first game of the season for Newcastle, he also caused Cash problems. So when Villa have lost, it's come from having actually that kind of dangerous player on the left hand side. Is that something that concerns you?
Yes, it is. I think you make a very good point there, actually. I think I think the key for Villa is starting the game well.
Yes,
we've conceded early goals, and I think if we can, I don't know whether the players are going into away games with maybe a slightly different mindset, whether they're thinking, okay, rather than let's go out and let's attack from the first whistle, maybe they're kind of going into it with a kind of, well, let's see how the opposition is setting up first of all, and then we can try and play our game. And maybe that kind of hesitation has brought about the kind of poor starts away from home. That's just me totally speculating there. We won't really know how the game plan would be to set up away from home, but I think the key is to start well. I think that area is an area of concern because, as you say, in transition, Matty Cash has been caught a little bit upfield, but his job when Villa have the ball is to be high and wide on that right hand side at the moment. So it's difficult to kind of hang the blame all on his shoulders. I think it's about how Villa set up in their kind of rest defence, and they're ready to try and win the ball back, and that's maybe why there'll be a lot of emphasis on where Kamara sits in that midfield and whether he moves into that kind of right centre back position, or whether they decide to play Matty Cash a bit lower. And maybe Leon Bailey plays higher and wider on the right-hand side.
Yeah, that's
all kind of depends on John McGinn's fitness. There's options there, but Brennan Johnson's pace, runs from deep in behind, is a problem when you play the way that Villa do defensively.
Yeah, to be fair, ABFC, what's he saying in the comments that Cash handled Matoma very well at Villa Park. He's having an excellent season. I'm not digging Cash out at all. He's one of my favourite players. I think he's absolutely brilliant and he's having a great season. But just, there is a difference with Villa at home and Villa away, and those three players that I mentioned, they were all in away games and they were all in defeats. Home, we don't seem to have a problem against anyone really for the last 12 months. Really, we don't have a problem against anyone at home. But in away games, that does seem to have been a pattern that I've noticed in games that we've struggled in. So it would be interesting to see what happens with that. You touched on McGinn's fitness there. You're the Sky Sports newsman day to day. Dave, you've got some Villa fitness news. We haven't actually had Emery's press conference yet, so I presume we'll learn more this afternoon.
Yeah, so Unai is talking to the media a little bit later. So John McGinn trained individually yesterday, did some individual work. He wasn't out with the group. So I think it's a bit 50-50 really whether he's going to be available for the weekend. They'll obviously have a group session today. They'll have a session tomorrow ahead of the game on Sunday. Diego Carlos was back with the group yesterday, which was nice to see. Jacob Ramsey, there was a nice moment at the start of training yesterday when Unai announced that Jacob was back with the group. Unai will do a kind of a bit of an introduction at the start of training, say who's here, who's not here, and explain who's been where. And there was a nice moment at the start of training yesterday when all the players gave Jacob Ramsey a round of applause at the start of training to be back with the group. Who else was missing? So Emi Martinez was missing, Leon Bailey was missing, and
they're travelling though, aren't they?
They were travelling. So you wouldn't have expected them to be in on a Thursday session, having played overnight into the early hours of Wednesday morning. So you would expect them to be back today, probably for a light session for them, and then a kind of build-up session tomorrow for the game on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean Ramsey and Moreno, I don't think they'll start. I think they'll be in the. I think they'll be in the squad. I think they'll both be on the bench. But I think it'd be a bit too much to expect either of them to start this game. McGinn would be the big blow because he is Villa's form player. I did a podcast for Who Scored yesterday, Premier League preview, and actually according to their rankings over the last 6 games, McGinn's second across the entirety of the Premier League in terms of the form guide at the moment for average rating. So McGinn's in brilliant form, but also just because of the way Spurs play. I would have expected the same midfield four that we had in the last game against Fulham. If you know everyone's fit, McGinn kind of playing from the right but making the box, and Tielemans from the left doing the same thing. And I also that kind of to me made sense against Spurs because of the way that Postecoglou inverts their fullbacks. So Porro and Royale will come very, very central in build-up play. And I just thought having those four kind of, because they are central midfielders essentially, albeit they're all doing slightly different things, just having that four might negate that ever so slightly. So if McGinn's not there, you know, the players that are going to come in and maybe play instead of him, I don't think they're the same defensively as McGinn would be on that flank. So that would be a huge blow. You talk about Carlos coming back. Maybe it'll be that Carlos comes in and Conte moves to right back and Cash plays from the right. If McGinn's not fit, that potentially would be something I would look at, and that's something we've done in away games that have gone well for us actually as well in the past. So even with McGinn out, we still have options, but there's no doubting that from a tactical perspective of playing against Spurs defensively, I think no McGinn would be a huge blow. But just Villa in general, he's on top of his game at the moment. You saw him again with Scotland. He just seems to score every time he's on international duty.
Yeah, he's you know, you can tell his chest's puffed out when he walks. You know, he's got a smile on his face. He's probably playing the best football of his career, I would probably say at the moment, for Aston Villa. And you're right. I think it's what he gives you defensively, but also his discipline and knowing where to be at the right time. So it would be a major blow if he wasn't fit and available, because he is one who sets the tone, he sets the tempo in terms of the physical side of the game. You know, he will press, and he will be the one that is able to take the ball and create things as well. So yeah, major blow if he's out. But I think it's an interesting point you make around maybe Diego Carlos coming back, whether they'll question chucking him straight in. But I think
It's only been a few weeks, hasn't he? He's played games.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not like he's going to be way down on match fitness.
No.
It might just need a couple of sessions to get him back up to speed. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if McGinn's not out. I think that's definitely a viable option. Bringing Carlos in, switching Konsa out to right back, and then Cash playing further forward with one eye on where the Tottenham fullbacks end up going.
Yeah, there was talk of Bailey having a knock actually on international duty, as well as Zaniolo's played on international duty as well. You know, Cash didn't go away with his country as well to concentrate on fitness. You know, a lot of Villa players are away. You know, Bailey and Martinez, like you said, probably only have one training session or one proper training session before the game. So it's not ideal, but it's something that most teams will have to deal with nowadays. We've spoke about Tottenham's high line, probably with centre backs missing and maybe being a bit susceptible to pace. The last kind of front two you'd probably want to come up against in the Premier League is Ollie Watkins and Moussa Diaby. And actually, Spurs were crap last season. It was a completely different manager playing a different way. But, Watkins caused them problems at their place last season, didn't he, in similar circumstances?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's almost chalk and cheese, isn't it, from the Tottenham that we saw at Villa Park towards the tail end of last season. They were so flat. And I remember talking to you on the preview before that game, just saying, there's feeling like there's no way that Villa could not win that game, because Tottenham were just all over the place, absolutely all over the place. They didn't really know how they were going to do this. Looked so devoid of confidence at the back end of last season. And, the change of manager, change of a couple of personnel, the big one being Harry Kane, and the mood has just lifted incredibly at Tottenham at the moment. And they obviously started the season well, but everybody kind of looked and saw that they had quite a thin squad, and it's kind of coming back to bite them a little bit. And there's even I speak to a couple of Spurs fans at work, and they're thinking, maybe even Gio Lo Celso might come back into the reckoning.
I thought he might cover Maddison. I did think that is straight away for the Wolves game, that he might just be a like for like, because he's a good player, Lo Celso.
Yeah, and he's proven it over the years, hasn't he, that he is a good player, but it's not really happened for him in the Premier League so far, really. So it's a strong test of Tottenham's squad. It's a test of Ange Postecoglou as well, because if they start to lose a couple of games, then it doesn't matter how many players you've got out. People will start to question what you're doing, and he has quite happily gone on the record and said, "This is the way I play. This is the way I'm going to play for forever." And should they start to lose the next few games, questions will be asked about whether he's too wedded. Has he got a plan B? That's always what people say. Has he got a plan B? Should he change things and make them a little bit more attritional and harder to play against? So it'll be interesting to see how he sets up against Villa and in the games ahead as well.
I think we can safely say this one won't be 0-0. I mean, we can't keep a clean sheet to save our lives anyway. And Spurs, I mean, they were open when they had 9 men. They played the same way, which was fair play to them. I really, really enjoyed that. But even though they lost, I really enjoyed what I saw from them that game. So I think it's probably safe to say it won't be 0-0 and there'll be goals in this game, Dave.
Yeah, I'd say so as well. Just to mention as well, I didn't mention Douglas Luiz, so he was another one that was travelling back as well. So he'll be back and back in training. I would have thought today. Yeah, I can't imagine this being 0-0. To be honest with you, it's going to could be a super Sunday for the age on Sky this weekend. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it could be 3-2, could be 4-3, could be 5-5. You just never know. But I'm looking forward to it. It should be great.
Proper company man, yeah. Getting the Sky references. To be fair, I think the game after Villa will be pretty tasty as well. Everton against Manchester United. I think that'll be be a good game afterwards. And obviously, TNT to keep it fair. They've got Man City Liverpool on Saturday.
No, they haven't. They haven't.
Sky.
It's live on Sky.
Oh my God!
So that has been. It was due to be the evening kickoff, but I believe local police wanted it moved to the early game because they were struggling for resources. Yes. So that's the lunchtime game on Saturday, and TNT have got the other game 5:30. I'm not sure what it is. Might be Brentford potentially. Not sure.
I haven't got a clue about the. I did wonder why that game was lunchtime. I'm actually away this weekend, so I'm in negotiations with my girlfriend for a Saturday lunchtime football feast where in a pub somewhere. I'm sure I'll get that buyer. Right, just before you go, actually, Dave, me and you have just talking of Sky. We've just signed up to our contracts for January, doing the transfer shows. There's a couple in December as well on Sky Sports News. I was thinking about this before we came on because I associate you with transfers basically because that's when I see you when we're working together on Sky. I don't think Villa are going to sign anyone in January.
I wouldn't be surprised if they. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't. I think, as always, we saw it in the last January window. There was money available in the last January window, and the club and Unai Emery made the decision not to really go in and spend a lot, bringing in Moreno, who had such a massive impact actually on the back end of last season. So, for all everybody says, January is a tough window to make signings. There is proof there that if you get it right in January, it can have a real impact on the rest of your season. Obviously, there's lots of stories where it's not gone so well, but it is possible to do deals. It wouldn't surprise me. I think, we talk about it all the time, but in the back of Villa's mind is FFP. And then also they're not really sure what sort of competition they're going to be in next season. It'll be the question that gets asked. If Villa are in and around Champions League places in the final week of the transfer window, do you go all out and try and sign someone in order to get yourself over the line? I think Villa will probably hold firm in January.
Same.
Have a look at who is coming back from injury. Have a look at the fitness and the long-term fitness of Jacob Ramsey, Moreno, Carlos, whether they are able to sustain the rest of the season, and make a decision from there. I don't think they'll be kind of swayed by Villa's league position. And also, you think if Villa do get in the Champions League, that opens up a whole new market for Villa in the summer, and therefore you want as much money as you can in the bank and be able to spend it when you get to next summer. So I think if Villa are in the Champions League next season, again, it's a different kind of players that we're targeting. Whereas in January, I think the most likely scenario is that Villa might, depending on unforeseen circumstances like another bad injury to someone, where Villa have to go out like we did in the summer and get Clement Longley, or Jacob Ramsey gets injured and there's a loan to buy with Zaniolo. Unless something like that happens, I can't really see anything major happening in the January window.
No, I'm just not seeing it. I also think for where we are, like a Europa Conference League team that's trying to push higher up in the Premier League, I'm not sure when everyone's fit. I don't think you can improve that 11. And I've never thought that in my life as a Villa fan, that I don't think we can improve upon this 11 for where we are as a club. You're right. if we were to qualify for the Champions League, you open up a completely different market for yourself, and players that are first 11 players become like almost the 12th and 13th man. But at the moment, I don't think we can improve on what we've got. And I think when everyone's fit, we've got a really competitive squad. Actually, when everyone's fit, we've got good players coming off the bench as well. People will always say about having an alternative striker, but that's just not going to happen because Ollie Watkins is the main man, and everyone knows that, and anyone coming to the club would know that and wouldn't want to come to the club. So unless something interesting comes up, I take your point on it being a difficult market as well. I think where it doesn't become a difficult market is Villa doing what they did last January and picking off a team that isn't in European competition from La Liga. That's where the Premier League just dwarfs their finances, so they can come and pick up players for reasonable fees. But if you're trying to pick up players from teams that are in Europe and big clubs with money, it's difficult to get them in January because the price goes up. So looking at how Emery operated last January and was very savvy, decided he'd work with what he's got with in mind that we're doing really well as well. I just don't see it. Maybe backup goalkeeper still would be the only place that I thought if someone came in a better quality of backup goalkeeper who's more suited to what Emery wants to do came available, that would be the only place, perhaps because I was surprised we didn't do that in the summer. But really, I don't think we can improve upon what we've got at the moment for where we are. So yeah, Martin Ryan's just said it literally the same time as I've said that about another goalkeeper. I wasn't copying what you were saying, Martin. It was already in flux in my mind. Anyway, so yeah, just wanted to pick your brains on January a little bit because I'm sure we'll do loads of transfer content in December, January. But I honestly don't. I think basically when Villa Podcast, whatever, are doing transfer stuff, it's all made up. No one knows. I honestly do not. I don't expect Villa to buy anyone in January. Honestly, I wouldn't really expect any outgoings either. So I think it'll be a quiet one at B6. Did we bring back predictions last time, Dave? I can't remember because obviously we lost.
We did, yeah, we did.
I think I got the score right actually last time as well against Fulham. I said 3-1, and we won 3-1. So we'll bring back predictions, Dave. What are you saying?
I keep tipping us to keep a clean sheet every week because surely it's going to happen sooner or later. I am going to go 2-1 to Aston Villa.
It's exactly the same score I was going to go for as well, Dave. That's what I've done on Who Scored as well. So yeah, even though I say about not making predictions, I literally have to do it on another podcast that I do the day before. So I am still making predictions, even if I don't say it on this show. I still have to make one on another podcast. So it's a bit stupid of me, really. Right, that does us, Dave. A pleasure as always to talk to you. I think that was a good chat through Tottenham Hotspur, and I enjoyed it very much, and I'm looking forward to Sunday, and of course looking forward to seeing you in person a bit more as the winter period approaches. Where are we with content? Villa playing Sunday. Yeah, Greg and I will do a pod on Monday looking back at the Spurs game and discussing everything that happened in there, everything newsworthy, so watch out for that. If you've enjoyed this video, whether you're a Villa fan or a Spurs fan, because we do seem to get quite a lot of opponents fans come on this podcast, and give the video a like if you have enjoyed it. I think we did Spurs justice. Leave us a comment as well with your predictions and whether you agree with what Dave and myself have said, and wherever you are taking in this podcast, leave a nice review, give it 5 stars, and subscribe, because that really helps us as a channel, helps us pop up in places that we wouldn't normally pop up in. Thank you very much to those that joined us in the chat. Always a pleasure to see you interacting. There's a nice little community that's been fostered there. You're actually quite a lot of the time, I don't even know if you're listening to what Dave and I say, because you're having a little chat between yourselves, but it's nice to see there is that little community feel in the chat. So fair play to you all. Have a good Friday, have a good weekend, and anyone going to Spurs, have an excellent time on Sunday, and as always, up the Villa.